G'day everyone, welcome back to another edition of Guvs Hero Review videos. We are going to be continuing today with our Monster Island series, specifically taking a look at the 5-star legendary blue hero, Brutus, the Apex Predator Hunter. So Brutus is available for summons, as we saw there from the Monster Island portal, which comes around once every 8 weeks. The portal itself, it's got fairly average odds. There is only a 1.2% chance of getting an event legendary hero, and there are no featured hero odds on offer, which means the odds do drop off when you're going for someone specific. Putting that into a little bit of perspective, if you were to do 100 summons in this portal, you would have a 70% probability of getting any of the 8 Monster Island legendary heroes, but only a 13.9% probability of getting a specific Monster Island legendary hero. Brutus has been around for a little bit now. He was added during the initial appearance of the Monster Island event back in February 2022 with most of the other Monster Hunter heroes. The portal was expanded in March 2023 when some additional heroes were added, but yeah, Brutus has been around since the beginning of the event. His artwork itself, let's just quickly take a look. Spy class, there he is. So that's his artwork. So he's got a huge old harpoon gun going on there with 1 spare harpoon, so really hope he doesn't miss. Then got a random hook to, I guess, throw at an enemy, maybe? I don't know what the purpose of that is, but it's there. He's also got a helmet successfully applied to his elbow, which, as we know, is the best place to both store and wear your helmet. But yeah, that's his artwork. Feel free to pause it, review it further if you so choose. But otherwise, let's head back and discuss his family bonus. So Brutus, like all of the other heroes here, is a member of the Hunter family, which means that he has a healing bonus that is applied when there are multiple unique heroes from the Hunter family in a battle. So specifically, they gain a plus 10, 15, 20, or 25% healing improvement when there are 2, 3, 4, or 5 unique Hunters in a battle. So 2 things to note with this. Number 1, there is an emphasis on the word unique. They do have to be 2 different heroes. It can't be 2 copies of Brutus. It's got to be 2 different ones, like Brutus and Chainsaw, or Brutus and Magma, for example. Second thing to note is that I don't like this family bonus. I think it's probably one of the worst ones available. I generally don't like the healing improvement effects in most situations, but it's even worse when you consider the fact that there aren't actually any healers in the Monster Island family. The closest is Barbie, who does heal for damage, but there really isn't a dedicated healer. So I don't like the effect, and then there's no real synergy with the family. So it's kind of a double Debbie Downer. The heroes from the Hunter family also going to gain a bonus when you use them in the Monster Island event. So specifically, whenever they cast their special skill, they have a 20% chance to also apply a 1-turn silence and a 1-turn attack delay to the affected enemies. There's also a plus 4, 8, 12, 16, or 20% attack and defense improvement when you have 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5 unique Hunters in your team. So these effects, however, are only applicable when you use the heroes in the Monster Island event battles. It doesn't count in any other aspect of the game, only during the Monster Island event itself. Brutus comes in with some personal attack stats. So he comes in with 692 attack, 733 defense, and 1470 HP. So a bit of a skewing going from his attack stat towards mainly defense stat, which is a little bit strange with his special skill, which is mostly damage related, but it's only minor. So chances are you probably wouldn't even notice it in the scheme of things. His charge speed is 46, which is average speed and requires 11 tiles to charge, which is 6 ghosted tiles. The speed break does need to get to 50, which is plus 4, and can be done using either of the 5-star blue speed guns available. So you've got the Ice Breath Saw or the Regalizer Magnum, both of which give plus 9. The double speed break does need plus 12, which can't be done even when you combine a plus 9 speed gun with the 2% charge generation class node. So as a result, the class node is of little actual relevance for Brutus. His class itself, Brutus, is a spy class hero, which grants him the chance to scramble the charge of the enemies by 10%. So this is probably one of my favorite class perks in the game. It does come in clutch so often by cutting the enemy charge down by just enough to stop them from hurting you really badly. It is one of those effects that I do try to put +1 on most of my heroes, just to activate that chance for the scramble. By way of a specific emblem path, I would be going a very attack-oriented path. So I want to improve his damage output. I want even more damage, so I'm going to pick up as many attack nodes as we can. So what this actually looks like is we're going to follow any path that has attack, and when there is a choice between attack nodes, I'm going to go the defense route. Just personally, that's my preference. So attack nodes the whole way down, defense, attack and defense here, and then attack node at the end there. You can go to +19 where there is another attack node there. I probably wouldn't be going to +20 because it's just not enough to get that extra speed break out of him. So yeah. Apologies, small correction, I just double checked something. The speed node is actually relevant because I forgot it was a 4% rather than a 2%. So if you do pick up that speed node at +20, which is 4%, you can double speed break Brutus when combined with a +9 gun. So there might be some value for you personally to go to that 20th node. For me personally, it's a lot of emblems. It's 1,500 emblems, so there are very few situations where I find that to be worthwhile, and I do not believe, for me, that Brutus is one of those options, but he might be for you. So that'll be something that you need to decide, I guess. So yeah, small correction there. You can get a double break if you combine a +9 speed gun with the 4% class node on his talent tree. Yeah. So heading back and having a look at the rest of his skills. So his skill is titled Taser Harpoon, and at level 10 skill and 46 charge speed, it will deal 460% damage to the target. It will then apply a Harpoon Fiend to the target, which has 20% attack and will absorb a total of 30% of the recipient's, absorbs healing to a total of 30% of the target enemy's maximum HP. The Harpoon Fiend also drains 40% of the recipient's charge for as long as it remains alive. So breaking that down a little bit, starting with the damage side of things. So damage can be calculated easily, but it is difficult to do consistently because of the variability of the inputs to the calculation. So instead, we can calculate a hero's attack power, which is their attack stat multiplied by the percentage in their skill, which is analogous to their overall damage output. So in the case of Brutus, we can see that he comes in with an attack power of 3,183. Which if we then divide by the 11 tiles to charge his skill, this normalizes it for speed and comes in with 289 attack power per tile, which is number 4 of the blue snipers in the game. So not too bad in terms of his damage output. All right, there's 17 sniping options. Brutus comes in number 4. That's a pretty good win. It does seem like he's a bit further down that list than what he is in reality because of the number of scenario damages that blue has. So yeah, but Brutus, definitely a good hitter. Downside is that there's no opportunity for him to be a better hitter, like is the case with a lot of these. So, you've got some interesting ones in there. You've got Lillian variant is quite high up. You've got Visor when he hits someone with less than 50% health. Iona is higher there. Gladius with 4 dead allies or 4 dead allies or enemies. But then there's a lot that are worse than Brutus, right? You've got Gladius at his base damage, Pantera is below him, Finley, Maverick, Quilla, Visor, and base damage. So, yeah, decent hitter, a decent sniper indeed. The other aspect of Brutus's skill is the Harpoon Fiend. So Fiends are a little bit interesting in that they both do and do not actually have HP. In the case of Brutus's Fiend, it will absorb healing to an equivalent of 30% of the recipient's maximum health, which is what is shown as the Fiend's HP when you do a detailed tap and hold in a battle and get more information there. There are 3 methods of getting rid of the fiends in a fight. So number 1 is obviously just to toss healing at them. This is the worst option because it is a considerable amount of healing that you actually miss out on, and not really ideal at all. The second method is to use a Fiend Destroyer, which is Marrow at the time of this recording. There are no other Fiend Destroyers, so if you've got her, you can use it to get rid of Fiends. But the third method, which is a little bit more accessible, is that you can actually displace Fiends with minions. This is possible because the Fiend sits in one of the 3 minion slots, so if you summon 3 minions, the Fiend kind of just gets kicked off the edge and disappears, which is kind of nice. By way of effects, the Harpoon Fiend has a passive attack that it does at the end of each turn, which is equal to roughly a 20% snipe from Brutus. So it isn't much, it comes in at less than 20% damage most of the time. But what is kind of interesting is that Fiends inherit all of their stats and their abilities from their original caster. So their damage is based from the caster, which then means that as well as his attack stat that it's inheriting, the Fiend is also inheriting all of the other effects that go with Brutus's attacking damage, essentially. So most of the time, this is fairly inconsequential, but there are a couple instances where it can actually be really interesting, and Brutus is one of those times because Brutus is a spy class hero, and his Fiends have inherited that spy class talent, which means that there is the opportunity for the Harpoon Fiend to proc the spy talent and not only be draining or siphoning charge, but also to literally cut it by 10% as well, which is pretty funny, to me anyway. The other thing that the Harpoon Fiend does, as I sort of touched on there, is that it siphons 40% of the charge that the recipient, or the receiving hero or afflicted hero, gains while it is active. So I do like this effect. It can be pretty good, particularly if you manage to get Brutus firing on a couple enemies and you end up with him siphoning charge from multiple heroes at once. This in turn will allow Brutus to charge quicker and then fire again, gaining more damage and even more charge siphon, and it can kind of like just roll through a team fairly easily. So overall, Brutus is a little bit of an interesting character, all right? His direct damage and the percentage from it is pretty hefty, right? A little bit of aid from emblems and you can come up with some really big damage numbers. His Fiend effect is very good in that it operates as a charge control with no set end point to it, and it allows him then to charge faster and faster, chaining through his special skill multiple times. The biggest letdown for me on Brutus is that the 2 parts of his skill are somewhat at odds with each other, right? So the Harpoon Fiend, you'll want it to be on the afflicted enemy for a while, because that's going to allow you to continue siphoning charge off that hero to Brutus. But Brutus's direct damage means that this is actually unlikely to be the case. You're most likely you've done a severe amount of damage to him with his upfront shot, so you're not going to get much benefit from the Fiend siphoning charge off because they just die shortly afterwards. So ideally, I would have loved to have seen Brutus as maybe a DOA thritter with like 200% damage, but applying that Harpoon Fiend to 3 enemies. That would have been my ideal setup of his skills, but we didn't get that. So we got something that's still pretty good, and that's what we're going to grade him on. So for Brutus's grading, I'm going to give him a B+ for war and raid attacks. Good damage, charge siphon, can't say too much more about that. For War Machines, I'm going to drop him down to a B grade. He's only staying higher because of the charge siphon in his skill, which is good at aiding your team's survival. For Eventing, I'm going to give him a C grade. No way around it. He's a single target shooter, which is not ideal for event heroes. For Raid and War Defenses, I'm going to give him a B grade. Probably best suited to a wing position. Flanking as a sniper isn't ideal because he's not really threatening a large enough section of the enemy team there, so probably best suited to a wing, but not really a great defending hero overall. For the tournament settings, in Bloody Battles, I'm going to give him a B+ on attack and a B grade on defense. Buff boosters, I'm going to give him a B grade on attack and a B grade on defense. And then finally, in charged attacks, I'm going to give him an A- for attack and a B+ on defense, because he does go from 46 up to 65 charge speed. So Overall, that comes in as being a B grade for Brutus's attack grade and a B for his defense grade. And that concludes the content for this review of Brutus. As always, this is just my personal opinion on these heroes. I do love hearing your thoughts and feedback on them, so please do drop down to the comments, leave me a note. I try to read and respond to as much of you as I can. If you did enjoy the video and found it to be useful, feel free to like it, subscribe to my channel and all of that, but most importantly, share the video around, because chances are, if this sort of thing is useful for yourself as a player, it's also going to be useful to the people that you play with as well. Thank you once again for tuning in and joining me for this review. I do hope that I will see you again soon, but until then, good luck, stay safe, and happy gaming. Cheers, bye!